Hey guys, Dutchy is out with some shoulder surgery this week, so I'll be doing opposition views with Sammy from SaintsTV, and here we go. Welcome to Opposition Views. We played St Kilda over on the weekend, and I thought who better than to get a St Kilda man himself. You might know him from SaintsTV. I know him from a club at 3 a.m. in Adelaide when we went to gather around. We've got Sammy, mate. Thank you for joining me.
You're so welcome, mate. It's a pleasure to be. What an introduction. What an introduction.
How you going, bud?
Me personally?
Personally, yeah.
Yeah, going well. Going well. You know, feeling good. It's winter. It's cold.
Yeah.
Get to, watch my team play like shit every week, which is great. You know, we're on two opposite sides of the field at the moment.
We are. We're sitting, sitting a stark contrast apart. Look, we'll sort of touch on this week a little bit later or a little bit soon. But I want to know your thoughts on the season so far from a Saints perspective. You know, we talk to Jake, every week on Footy Abroad, and he's hard to read sometimes. It's up and down with the Saints, and unfortunately we didn't get to talk to him this week in the lead up to this game. So what are your thoughts on especially on that game that you guys just played?
Well, I mean, it was a poor game to say the least, but we're a team that's rebuilding. I think people are tempering their expectations. I sort of came in at the start of the season, did my ladder predictor, and we were sitting pretty on top, undefeated, and Carlton with no wins at the bottom. And now, the wheels have fallen off, to say the least. We're a rebuilding side. We're probably where I thought we would be, maybe a little less competitive than I thought we would be, but nonetheless, I still think at the moment where we're at, the list demographic, the lack of talent, so to speak, on the list, we're very much sitting where I would expect. Now, that's not to say that these losses are excusable or otherwise, because, they're pretty, they're shit. Yeah, losing by 72 points is you're in uncompetitive territory there, and I think our average losing margin is 42 points this year, which is, that's bottom four material. You're sort of in your West Coast, North Richmond area there. But we're not hard beats this year. The recipe's pretty simple. If your pressure rating is above average or more, I think we've lost 7 from 8, except for Melbourne. And there's argument to be had that the only reason they didn't win that game was because they kicked themselves out of it. I think I'm a little bit more pessimistic than other St Kilda fans who, obviously a win's a win. You will take the win. You'll take whatever win you can. 4 points is 4 points. But, you've got to be realistic at the end of the day. We are where I thought we would be. So I'm not super disappointed. But unfortunately, you've got to take the long road, stick the course. Adelaide did it for 6 years, hit the draft, hit the free agency. There's no two ways around it. And unfortunately, we're not in a position like you guys where you can wave, unders, 750 and someone will come running for it. We have to pay overs and we have to really sell, the idea of what this club is. So it's going to be a difficult few years to come. But and you're obviously you're on top of the fucking world right now.
We're fine. I actually feel bad about talking about how well we're going after hearing that.
No, it's all right. You know what? I hear about it all the time. My DMs are filled with you guys just hanging shit on me all the time. And you know what? I don't really care because I was part of you guys last week. I was a Collingwood supporter for the day, and
how'd it feel?
It was actually really cool. Like being a part of something big and successful. It was weird, but no, it was great. I love getting around the pies. I love Tim Membry. I love the boys. I love Craig McRae as well. I think he's the best coach in the league. So
and I think you just touched on something really really cool there. We can talk about Tim Membry. We've talked about him a lot of the time. I remember when we signed him. It might have been the start of the year. When you and I started chatting, you were like, look after my boy, my boy Membry. And he has pretty much not come out of the team. He had 1 week where he just needed a rest, but he has been a staple, like an absolute staple. And, you talk to any sort of Collingwood supporter, and they'll say the same thing, like St Kilda really done themselves a dodgy by getting rid of Membry and not giving him, just what he wanted.
Yep.
How do you feel? How do you feel about that?
Yeah. There's two sides of the coin. I understand the direction.
Yeah.
And I mean, if things had have gone to plan this year, no one would have been saying anything.
Yeah,
So there's also that.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, well, okay, you can't really pick and choose. It either is or it isn't. Was it the best idea? Probably not hindsight, but hindsight, you don't have any grasp of when you're just about to start the season.
Exactly.
You can't predict injuries, you can't predict absences, this sort of thing. So it's all good and well to say that, but I mean, no, I'm very much of the mindset that him, along with a lot of other players that are currently on our list, they're better off being in a team who is positioned to have a premiership tilt. We're not in that category. Is it wasting his career? Probably, if he were to stay. I would argue that.
Yeah.
Because we're nowhere near, really even being in finals contention for the next 2 years, I'd say. So there is that. Was it sad to see him go? Absolutely. You don't want to see a guy like that go. But by the same token, will he get to see a flag? I don't know. It's looking pretty likely. It's more likely than not. Yeah. So I'm happy for that aspect, and I'm happy to see that he's able to be the player that he was at another club.
Yeah. I think that's the beauty about it. Like, the same thing happened when Brody Grundy, obviously went to Melbourne, but then went to Sydney, and they were competing, obviously for that flag. And I found myself just hoping Grundy could get that flag. Like, when they don't leave on bad terms, even though, Collingwood kicked him out, Treloar out and stuff like that, but it wasn't anything that they did. You go, I need Treloar to get a flag at the Doggies, like, hopefully it's when we're not going too well, so I don't have to sort of barrack against him. But, it's these sort of players that you probably need around your club. And, Membry did a potty with Tom Mitchell that was, super insightful. Like, everything that he sort of went through as well, it was well documented. And you're a big proponent of, mental health and struggles and speaking for the fight and stuff like that. He's just one of those guys where you just not only want to wrap your arms around him, you want everything good in the world to happen to him.
100%. And part of that as well is, unfortunately, as a club, to move yourself forward, you do have to make hard decisions. Grundy and Treloar were part of a salary dump. Yep. So, in order to be successful, you do need to be ruthless in this business, and you do need to make hard decisions. Was that hard decision to not so much not offer Tim Membry a contract, but not match another contract to make way for a younger player? I don't know. Will it pay off? I don't know yet. But you've got to take these risks at the end of the day, because to be successful, you have to be a risk taker. And if you're not, and you're risk averse, you're going to find yourself in football quicksand, which we have for what? Fuck, it feels like forever now.
It honestly does, mate. It honestly does.
What's it been? It's probably been about 15 years. So, it's an unfortunate byproduct. You have to make these hard decisions. Does that mean I want to see him go? Absolutely not. Yeah. Do I want to see him be successful? Absolutely. Do I still tune into the Pies every week and cheer when he gets a mark? That great vertical leap that he has off 2 feet? Absolutely I do. I love that shit.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, yes, it is sad to see him go, but I'm happy that he's found a club that has clearly just welcomed him with open arms, and he's clearly doing well.
Yeah.
And he's always been a great player. He's a great utility and plays up the ground like not many forwards do.
Yeah, we absolutely love him. Look, we'll talk about the last time Collingwood played the Saints. You probably remember it last year.
Do I want to remember it?
Well, you do, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we won that. Well, it was one of the few games we won.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
I
Please remind me.
I remember this game because, we come off the premiership. We lose the first 2 games to the Giants. Sydney was our flag unfurling. We get smashed there. St Kilda sell their Marvel game to the MCG. They want to play us. I think it was it the Danny Frawley game, or was it the?
I think that was our one. Was it our 150?
Oh, it might have been the 150.
Yeah, I think it was a 150.
It was a big occasion. Yeah. Whichever it was a really big occasion. And you guys pantsed us. I think it was only by 15 points or something, but you guys were on top of us for most of the game. Higgins kicked 4, King kicked 3. I remember leaving that game and saying, this game here, no matter what happens for the rest of the season, this will come bite us on the arse. And then, we finished 9th and we're out the finals by percentage or whatever it was. Do you remember any of that game?
I do remember that game. I don't remember the days after that. So I think, like any St Kilda fan, we get one win and then you go out for 4 days straight. You don't see many of them around these parts. It's every win is a grand final in our world. But no, I do remember that game. I remember that was sort of the game that Liam Henry announced himself as a St Kilda player, and then we didn't really see him again for the rest of the year, or this year for that matter. But that's a long time ago. It was, yeah. That's a long time ago.
I thought we played each other later than that, but it was, right at the start of last year, pretty much. It was, so much has changed since then. What I wanted to ask was, how do you said this was a sort of rebuilding year. Last year was your first year with Ross as well. Is that correct? Or was that
second year with Lion.
Yeah. So how different, not personnel-wise, but how different do you think St Kilda were at the start of last year when you beat the reigning premiers to now playing us?
Totally different. We've had a near complete list turnover. If you think about the staples that have been in the side for however long, Seb Ross is now no longer playing. Tim Membry is now at Collingwood. Josh Battle's now at Hawthorn. You've had numerous first, second, third year players who have moved on. Nick Caulfield's moved on to Bulldogs. Not that he ever really played that many games for us, but the list looks completely different to what it did 3 years ago. And, we're not really in ground zero of a rebuild. I'd say we're in our third year. Okay. You always get... In first year coaches goes one of two ways. It's either sugar rush and you'll make finals, or you just bottom out. There's no real in between, and they just kind of go okay. And we had the sugar rush. Now I think we're starting to see the holes in the list where it needs to go, but we're on the right track. And the reality is best places to finish, top 4 or bottom 4. Yeah. Anywhere between that, you're not going to move anywhere. It's a bit of no man's lane, yeah. So very, very different list, very different performance. I think this is probably one of the worst years we've had since 2018, maybe. So it's been quite a while. That's a long time. I can't remember the last time we have lost so frequently by so much. Yep. But I was thinking about the weekend the other day, and something so St Kilda would be to lose to West Coast and beat Collingwood in the same season. Yeah. And you know what? Wouldn't even fucking surprise me. Yeah. I would not be surprised at all. But we could also lose by 1,000 points at the same time. So I'm ready. I'm ready for any outcome. Yeah. And it's also your home game, which is super weird.
Yeah. So we're contractually obliged to play 2 home games at Marvel. The thing that's weird about that game is that the Carlton North game on the same day is at the MCG, and the Collingwood St Kilda game is at Marvel.
Yeah, right.
Which is wild.
I think the North is 100 years? It's some sort of celebration for North Melbourne, I think so.
Well, hopefully it's a celebration.
No one's written about. But, it might work in our favour. You might get jet lag from travelling over from the G.
Well, I've heard that they're holed up in the Docklands now. They've got a nice penthouse for all the players, so they don't have to travel between.
I actually would believe that. That is actually there's something in that.
But at Marvel though, you guys, obviously it's your home ground. You play really well there. You got last year, you knocked off Geelong there when they were flying. How you said you were ready for a 1,000-point loss, or you're ready to, you could sort of upset us. Yeah. And I think this game, as much as people hate when I sort of say it, it feels like it is a banana slip game for us. St Kilda like to back up a loss with a fight, an absolute fight. We're coming off, when we play you guys on Saturday, it'll be 1 game in 22 days. Yeah. Which is just is wild.
Big break.
Which is absolutely wild. How realistic do you give yourself as a chance?
Well, there's a couple of things that play in our favour. You're coming off a bye, yeah? Yep. Don't like teams off the bye, first and foremost. Don't care who they are, don't care how good they are. Just don't like teams off the bye. They're always sluggish. Yep. Second thing is, if we roll out a really young team, your data pool is really limited. You don't know what your matchups are going to look like. You don't really know how these players play because they haven't been around for long enough. Now, that works one of two ways. They're young, so they're going to make mistakes and they're going to have some, poor skills. But the second thing is that they're unpredictable.
Yeah.
They're young.
Yep.
So that could work in our favour. But those are really the only two things. Yes, it's at Marvel. I don't really see that as being of any benefit considering we've been pants there a few times this year. So, we seem to play better away from home than we do at our home deck, which, doesn't make sense. But anyway, and also we're in front of a big crowd. I don't know how the boys are going to cope in front of more than 20 people. It might be really scary. They might not come out of the rooms. Yeah, so, there's a few things that work in our favour, but I think at this point in time, all St Kilda fans want to see, we want to see young kids getting played.
Yep.
And we want to see them take on the game. Yep. None of this, defensive, structural shit that just drags the game to its knees along with its opponents.
Classic
and makes
line ball, right?
Yeah, like a, 50-41 the scoreline or something like that. We don't want to see it. None of us want to see it. And I also don't want to see a tag. I know you guys hate the tag.
Windhager is probably going to go to Nick Dalos. He's done a number on so many good players this season.
Which is true. But I mean, I essentially see the tag as you're almost conceding defeat and you don't believe in your structure. Because if your structure holds up, you don't need to place a tag no matter how good the player is.
Yeah, right.
Does it really impact the game that much? I mean, we saw last week, we still lost by 72 points.
Yeah. Exactly.
You guys still beat Melbourne. Yes, it was a, last clinch effort, but that's by the by. Does it really do anything? I don't know. It sort of seems like a thing of yesteryear, but I'm sure that will be the case nonetheless. Windhager will go to him.
It is what it is. But like you made mention of the way that you guys sort of usually play, which is like the slow tempo footy at times, and you want to see that fast footy. Jake tweeted about playing lots of the kids, and you sort of mentioned that as well. I won't talk about Kane's rebuttal to that. Did you see that, by the way?
No, Kane Corns, I'm assuming.
Kane Corns tweeted Jake back. But, which was pretty funny. But
I mean, Jake always tries to wind him up.
He does.
So he's going to bite back at some point.
Do you, there's talks of Philippou coming in, Paddy Dow coming in, the Flying Viking playing his first game.
Yep.
Possibly Schoenmakers. Is that what you want to do to play the kids against quote unquote the best side in the league at the moment, and just see how you guys fare up, and then you can assess for the rest of the year? Or is that just like you said, conceding defeat and saying we're just going to play the kids because it is?
I don't think it's conceding defeat. I think conceding defeat is continuously playing your older players who just aren't performing week in, week out and expecting a different result. I mean, that's basically, we're going to roll out the same team. We know what's going to happen, but we may as well play these senior players. The reality is players like Steele, Webster, McRae are not going to be around for, let's call it a premiership window.
Yep. These
young players are. And look what Richmond are doing. Like, yes, there are times where they're pretty abject and they're getting absolutely pumped, like hard to watch, watch. But 2-3 years' time, they'll be better off because of it. And it's, football is very much a trial by fire. They're not getting anything out of the VFL. If you've seen our VFL side or even watched a few clips, they are totally abject. The highlights reel can be slimmed down to like 5 clips. It's that bad. Right. So they're not getting any better down there.
Yep.
So what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Because you got to be more long-sighted. The season's lost. Like, we're not making finals. If we come, sort of 8th to 12th again, I would say that's worse for us than coming bottom 4.
Interesting.
But that's my perspective.
But you don't want to sort of bottom out and tank, right? Do you have your first round draft pick, by the way?
Yeah, we do. Okay. Yeah, it is a compromised draft, so I think if we finish bottom 4, let's say, 15th.
Yeah.
I think that ends up being pick 8 after academy picks and whatever else, which, still it's better than pick 19 or whatever it would be.
Yep.
But playing young kids isn't bottoming out, it's having long-term vision. Because short-term vision would be, let's play all the senior players, let's play these older guys. Like you guys at the moment, you guys are in a premiership window. you have every right and every need to play senior players, older players with experience. We don't. So I see it as a more long-term kind of thing. You've got to think about the next 3 years. This year is done. It's dead and buried. Okay. Try and get games into the kids.
Yeah.
And then that'll bring people to games. Like, our numbers are terrible.
Yeah, it will. No, it will. And I think Collingwood, went through that a bit last year where at one stage, we had 17 players on the injury list. So we had to see Ed Allen, Lockie Sullivan, Ned Long, these guys that probably wouldn't have gotten a game in a premiership side, like a reigning premiership side. And now we're seeing this year that, okay, Ed Allen is playing games. Ned Long, look where he's come because we put 9 games into him last year.
Ned Long is a guy.
He is definitely...
He is a guy. Shit, he's good.
Dude is just absolutely incredible. But it goes to show that, you're right. It is, and I think that's a glass half empty approach that I just took when I said, is it bottoming out? But, you've said it's looking to the future. And I think that's a good way to sort of look at it, and it's getting the balance right. Do you this might be, I don't know, a weird question, but what's a win for you on the week? Say you lose, right?
Yep.
What's a win for you on the week, and just seeing the kids play and just having a crack?
Yeah, and I mean they're the only 2 metrics you can have.
Yeah. Yep.
It's even like, North Melbourne supporters at the moment. Yeah, they're getting done and they're going down. But I mean, shit, they were pretty good against Freo. And that's what fans want to see when you're a struggling side. All we really want to see is effort. We want to see players take the game on, and we want to see our future getting played.
Yep.
Not the past. Not a past All-Australian or, some guy that won the best and fairest 7 years ago. They're not part of the future anymore. We want to see what is to come, so we can get excited about that. But that's all I really want to see. Yeah. I want a game, man. There's been a lot of stinky games of football this year. Unfortunately, we've been a part of a few too many. Yeah. Or most of them. I mean, shit. Fuck, I hope it's not that bad. Sorry to everyone who's been watching St Kilda games out there. But yeah, that's what I want to see. It's prime time. Give us something. It is. Give us something.
Do you think Ross will try and just slow the game down I know Collingwood, I try and be as humble as I can, but Collingwood are a really good side this year, and we do have ways to break down defences and zones and stuff like that, and just run and carry, because that's what we do, especially on a dry marvel, right?
Yeah.
Do you think Ross will just go for broke, or just, okay, we need to lessen the bleeding before the bleeding even begins?
So I don't know if it's a game plan, structural thing, or if it's sort of, mental fortitude. But whenever we've played opponents that have displayed above average pressure rating or more, we go defensive.
Yep.
Anyone less than that, we're offensive.
That's
so.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
But the reality is, you don't win games playing defensive football, and with the skill that we have, or lack thereof, lack of talent, it just gets locked in our defensive half. Other teams rely off turnovers. It ends up being, we have some monster scoreline kicked.
Yeah.
So it clearly doesn't work. And I mean, there's only so many times you can do the same thing where you're like, oh, fuck, something needs to change. Something needs to change. But I'm hoping that, then again, what round are we in now? I've been hoping for the last 4 or 5 months that something would change, and not much has. So will it change this weekend? I don't know.
Yeah.
But, the soundboard's getting pretty loud now. I think people are voicing their opinions more than ever, media and otherwise, and fair enough, fair enough. So I would hope that for you guys' sake, and for everyone watching that game, and for my own sanity, that we play some sort of offensive football where we can kick a winning scoreline.
Yeah, I think that's what just anyone wants to see. Just give us that, and like you said, with the injection of youth as well, we might get a little bit sort of that. But in saying that, before we wrap up, what's your head and your heart saying for predictions for the weekend?
As I said, it's one of two ways. We will either lose by 50,
yep,
or win by 11 points.
Yeah, yep.
And I don't think there's any in between because we're not really a team that loses by a couple of points. We lose big. And when we win, we only win by a couple of points. So it's going to be one of the two. And I don't know where I sit. I need to see the team. I don't know. Is this a game where you rest players? I don't know. You know, you're coming up a bye, so
you'd hope not. Like, you know, I think that if Collingwood are serious about their season, and the thing with Collingwood is, and Collingwood supporters will sort of say the same. We don't bury teams that we should bury. Like, Kangaroos. We beat them only in the sort of third and fourth quarter, second half, because they started slowing down. But, you know, we tend to play to the skill level of the lesser teams that we play.
And I think it's deliberate. It gives you longevity for the season and the game. Collingwood probably won't get out of gear until the end of the third, start of the fourth. So it might be a close game until then. I reckon by halftime, I honestly think St Kilda will be up at half-time, and then we just then we'll lose.
Okay,
we'll lose by 70.
Yeah. It's like, here we go. Turn it on. Saints kick 1 goal,
just
20.
Flick them aside.
Which I think, and that's been a benefit of Collingwood's season where we can go to these different gears and sort of, I've been saying that we chameleon ourselves to the team that we play. So I think anything less than a 40-point win is not a failure because 4 points is 4 points, but you want to start putting percentage on because it's starting to get really close at the top of the table, and you know, we don't play a lot of teams down the bottom of the ladder for a long time. Like we got West Coast next week, and then we play the Blues. But you want to start putting these wins on the board, and these are the wins that typically in a premiership year or when we're up the top, we tend to drop these games, and that's just the Collingwood way. Like you said, we either can win this game by 50, 60 points, or we go, oh, well, we lost this. We are in 2022, we were flying, go to Marvel, West Coast hadn't won a game, and they down us by a few goals. Like, it's just...
You do realise you've only lost 2 games this year, right? Speaking like someone who's fucking seasons on the ropes. Listen to this guy.
No, it's just the mentality.
We've won 5 games and, it could go.
It's just the mentality. It's just Collingwood mentality in me. Like, I don't... Cause
you're a game clear on the top of the ladder, are you not?
I get really confident and cocky and stuff. It just bites me on the arse, and I don't like getting bitten on the arse.
Look, all I'm hearing is 3 50-point wins in a row. Carlton could be 200.
Mate, if we can put Mel and Carlton together, oh my god. You talk about a grand final parade, you won't see me.
Mate,
you won't see me.
Richmond will shut down at that rate. But I hear what you're saying. I mean, I can't sort of empathise with that because I don't know what it feels like to be up there. I get altitude sickness that high up the ladder. But I just want to see people be competitive. I want to see the Flying Viking. Yeah, shit, he looks good in VFL. I just want to see that tall blonde kid in the back line. So. Yeah,
it's gonna be a pretty interesting game. I want to see the Viking as well. Like, I think Woody from Wooden Spoon Data came on yesterday and said that the most contested marks or intercept marks is 6 by a debutant. So intercept marks in the back line. He reckons the Viking will hit 7. So that's a bit of an interesting thing a little byline. Yeah. A little byline. But he looks really good. Look, my uncle is a huge Saints supporter. So Uncle Mario, if you're watching this, mate, shout out.
Yep.
Pardon?
Yeah. My man.
my man. He actually watches. He watches you guys all the time.
Hello, what's his name?
Mario.
Hello, Mario.
Uncle Mario. So he watches you guys all the time. So he'll probably be there. But Sammy, thank you so much for coming on, mate. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you on Saturday. We'll hopefully come on to a swooping around.
Yep.
After 100%. The game, if
and if we win, I won't be coming into work on Monday. Or Tuesday.
Or grand final parade.
Yep. We're starting early. We're starting early. We're cooking.
That's it. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Go Pies. Hey guys, Dutchie is out for surgery this week. He's getting a bit of shoulder. Oh my fucking god!
No, keep that in.
right down the end.
Keep that in.